Good evening and welcome to the Pitt County Board of Commissioners meeting. We want to welcome all who are here present and all of those who are listening by way of virtual, YouTube, or on the phone. At this time, I call the Pitt County Board of Commissioners to order. Madam Clerk.
Yes, ma'am. Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Here.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Here.
Commissioner McBallhorn.
Here.
Commissioner Nunley.
Here.
Commissioner Ward. Commissioner White. Here. Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Here.
Madam Chairman, just to note, Commissioner Ward is on her way and Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick had called in earlier, said he would be unable to make it tonight.
So we have a motion.
Motion to excuse Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we excuse Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick. Are you ready for the question, Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McBallhorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner White. Yes. Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yeah.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. At this time, we will have invocation by Commissioner Albright and the pledge by Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Please stand while we pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day and for your many blessings. Grant us wisdom this evening and patience as we attend to our county's business. And we ask that you keep us in your light this day and always. Amen.
Please place the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May be seated.
At this time, we will move items, presentation 8, recognition of the Fall Essential Varsity Basketball team and the 4-H week proclamation. We'll move those two items below public address to the board.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we approve the agenda as printed and as added as. Are you ready for the question? Madam Clerk.
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McBallhorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, do we have anybody sign up for public address?
I think, Madam Chairwoman, we're going to go down to the presentations first.
Oh,
And also, if we can get a motion to approve both presentations, the first one recognizing the Farmville Central Boys varsity basketball team, and the second one recognizing the National 4-H Week proclamation. Handle those before the public address of the board.
I thought we was doing it after the public address.
I agree with that. No, let's
Okay, we
just
can
gonna
go
do
on
it.
it.
Let's just
Okay.
gonna do it.
So what was the motion?
The motion was to do it prior to the public addresses.
Okay. So if we can get a motion to approve the resolution, the proclamation, then we'll go down to present.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
I see it.
Chairwoman Floyd Gunner,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner White. Yes. Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yeah.
Yes. That's
Okay. You want to stay with us? How you doing? How you doing there?
Chairwoman, if you'd like, I will read this resolution that the board has just passed in honor of the board's basketball team. Title: Pitt County Board of Commissioners Resolution Recognition honoring the Farmville Central Varsity Boys Basketball Team. So the 2021 Farmville Central Boys Varsity Basketball Team played basketball with remarkable success and dignity and represented Pitt County in the state of North Carolina. Farmville Central Boys Varsity Basketball Team won the 2A State Boys Basketball Championship after the 4 sales 86-79. Whereas the players, coaches, and families of 2021 basketball team deserve congratulations on the time, effort, and resources they committed to quote going all the way and winning the 2A State Boys Basketball Championship. The 2021 Farmville Boys Basketball team is composed of John
Smith,
Shake Owens, John Short, Aaron Cox Jr., and Moore, and various Stewart, Noah Outlaw, Brandon Knight, David Short, Jay Pitt, Rick Taylor, Alex Moore, Dan Attorney, TJ Pickens, and Chris Schmitz. Thank you. Yeah, 2021 Farmville Central Boys basketball staff, head coach Larry Williford, assistant coach Donald Reed, assistant coach DeAndre Phillips, assistant coach Justin Foster, assistant coach Tony Joyner, assistant coach Juan Ferrell, manager Myron Outlaw, manager stats Terrence Dixon, Dennis Smith.
Coach Dennis Smith.
Awesome.
I mean, Dennis Pitt. He plays in the NBA. I wish he was Dennis Smith. He gets some money.
So now therefore be resolved, the Pitt County Board of Commissioners does hereby recognize the outstanding achievements of the 2021 Farmville Central Boys basketball team and congratulates the players, coaches, and families for bringing the 2A State Boys Basketball Championship to Pitt County, North Carolina. Adopted this 27th day, September 2021 by the Pitt County Board of Commissioners, signed by our chairwoman, Ann Board Evans, and attested by our clerk, Kimberly W. Hines. Chairwoman, if you'd like to present that.
I want to say congratulations to the staff and also to the players.
We have certificates for the players too. If I can get the clerk to, and the coaches. Do the players first here. So we've got Josh Shorts. Congratulations. The chair and chief presenters. Derek Cox Jr. Jaden Pitt. Okay, all right. Nick Taylor.
Congratulations.
Chris Rhodes. Two of coaches. We have Larry Williford, and we also have a special plaque here for you as well to recognize you for being named the Harvey Reed Male Coach of the Year We present the certificate of recognition awarded to you by the Pitt County Board of Commissioners this 27th day of September 2021. So we'd like to present that to you, Madam Chairman.
Congratulations.
We have certificate of recognition to Donald Reed. DeAndre Phillips. Juan Barrera. And we're lacking one. We'll get to Coach Dennis Pitts.
Congratulate you all for this achievement. We're just so proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. We asked Lee Guth to come forward, and anybody she may have brought with her, or our 4-H representative. Are they here from 4-H?
Yes.
Yes.
Mildred Council.
Okay. They may be, yeah, out in the hallway. No. Yeah, just. Go ahead and come forward if you would, please. Just gonna make a semicircle around the dais. Okay. All right, everybody here? Any parents who'd like to come forward, you're welcome to. All right, Madam Chairwoman, you want to read the proclamation?
Please.
Present to the public, see what we're going to read here. National 4-H Week, October 3rd to 9th, 2021. This is the National 4-H Week Proclamation. Whereas 4-H youth across the nation are leading efforts to solve problems in their communities and make a difference for their futures. And whereas 4-H is the largest youth development organization in North Carolina and the largest in the nation with over 6 million participants. Whereas 4-H in North Carolina claims 260,000 youth members and 13,000 volunteers, while the Pitt County 4-H program numbers more than 3,000 participants and more than 30 volunteers. Whereas 4-H is part of the North Carolina Cooperative Extension System of North Carolina State University and NC-A&T State University, is a program where youth learn through opportunities to provide them hands-on experiences in 4-H's mission mandates of science, engineering, and technology, as well as healthy living and citizenship. Whereas 4-H has connected youth and their communities with the innovative research and resources from our nation's 112 land-grant universities and colleges for more than 118 years. Now, therefore, the Pitt County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim October 3rd through 9th, 2021 as National 4-H Week in Pitt County. We urge the people of Pitt County to take advantage of the opportunity to become more aware of this special program that enhances our young people's interests in their futures as part of Pitt County 4-H youth development, and to join us in recognizing the unique partnership between our county and our state university system. This is adopted the 27th day of 2021, signed by our chairwoman, Ann Floyd Huggins. And I'll let you present that.
I want to say that we really are excited about this award. So hard to get this, I'm sure. And I know this council has been on the forefront of 4-H for years here in Pitt County. And so we're just excited to have these young men and young ladies to receive this. And we want to this 4-H week proclamation. Yeah, so
This is our agent.
this is the agent. Okay.
Ms. Lauren.
So on behalf of Pitt County Board of Commissioners, we do proclaim October 3rd through the 9th, 2021 as National 4-H Week in Pitt County. Congratulations again.
and I'm just coming from the Pitt County Fair, which is 100 years old in Pitt County this year. And the thing was keep ticking, and guess what? The Pitt County All-Star Stuff has been ticking, and we got the blue ribbon at the fair. So we're kicking off the proclamation for 2021. This club and all the other clubs here in Pitt County, we are so excited. Thank you.
Not here tonight. Okay. Thank you. Now we're ready for the public address to the board,
Yes, ma'am.
I believe. Okay, Mr. Manager, who do we have signed up?
Yes, we have 3 people signed up. If we can ask the county attorney to read our statement on public address to the board first, and then we'll proceed.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Manager. Pitt County welcomes comments on all matters of public concern. Please state your name and address prior to beginning your remarks. Remember that comments are to be directed to the board and not to individuals. Please keep all comments respectful. Profanity or personal attacks will not be permitted. If you are speaking for a group, please identify that before you begin your remarks. I will keep your time at 3 minutes per speaker unless you are speaking for a group, at which time I'll keep your time at 5 minutes per speaker. Please note that commissioners will listen to your comments at this time and may have county staff follow up with you after the meeting. Follow-up as appropriate may be reported back to the full board by the manager at a future meeting. When you hear the timer indicate that your time is up, please conclude your remarks. You'll be called in the order you signed up with an opportunity for each topic to be heard. Public addresses will be limited to 30 minutes in total.
And as the attorney read, please adhere to the time frame and also give us your name and address. Thank you.
Okay, our first speaker is Pitt County Sheriff Paula Gantz.
As Pitt County Sheriff, I'd be asking for an additional 2 minutes. I'm speaking for a group. I'm speaking for the Pitt County Sheriff's Office in Royal Ohio.
Within the chair's discretion.
Since you're speaking for a group.
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am. Okay. I am here tonight to respond to the people and to provide a rebuttal to the public statement made by former employee Lauren Johnson on August 23rd during the public address. It is important to note that Ms. Johnson had previously sent an email on August 18th to Commissioners Colson, White, myself, Gallagher, Chief Capehart, and Scott Elliott, expressing concerns and complaints about her immediate supervisor, her duties, and the transition, and what she, as an LPN, considered were all the things done wrong by her supervisor, who is an RN. In other words, plain and simple, the gist of the first email was Ms. Johnson did not like her supervisor. On August 23rd, and before anyone could reach out to her, on the first email, Ms. Johnson appeared at the county commissioners meeting and presented a whole new and improved set of concerns. Based on the egregiousness of the allegations in her public address, my office immediately launched an inquiry. After interviewing Ms. Johnson on August 24th in reference to her allegations, we investigated and found the following. Ms. Johnson told the Board of Commissioners that in the previous 5 weeks, medical has sent 12 inmates out to the ER. She said she knew this for a fact. This claim is patently false. Our investigation revealed that in fact, medical has sent out 5, of which 3 were related to mental health needs, 1 directly from a routine appointment with an off-site provider after the provider noticed irregularities in labs, and 1 was sent to the ER for a blood transfusion related to a blood disorder, a decision based on the results of lab work ordered by the on-call well-path physician that ironically was contacted by Ms. Johnson herself. Most important, no one was sent to the ER because the condition was exacerbated by any neglect by WellPath, as Ms. Johnson alleges. Ms. Johnson further alleged that sick calls were not being met in a timely manner. Sick calls are prioritized consistent with the type of exigency and nature of the complaint. For example, someone exhibiting or making a complaint of serious medical emergency would take precedence of a sick call involving an inmate's nail clippings. Ms. Johnson stated that there had been no NP or PA on site at all since July 1st. However, Ms. Johnson herself made many references to calling the on-call NP, John Rancy. Rancy and Dr. Rose have been on site at least once to twice, 1 to 2 times every week. Ms. Johnson further alleged in her public address to the board that nurses have called on-call doctors and waited for hours for callback. During the interview, Ms. Johnson could only provide one specific example of this, but she didn't actually witness it. In fact, she said she heard about it from a RN who left in July. Ms. Johnson referenced a mental health patient who she claimed the medical staff refused to see over the weekend, but later in the same conversation, Ms. Johnson said the NP and a mental health social worker had seen the inmate that weekend. Ms. Johnson, further alleged that medications are delayed until records from off-site community providers are received. It is standard protocol to confirm the inmate's diagnosis and medication with community providers before giving inmates medication. Ms. Johnson was unable to identify or provide specific information on an instance in which an inmate had been denied insulin. Ms. Johnson alleged that inmates on suicide watch was going 5 days without being seen. Ms. Johnson could only describe one inmate who was placed on suicide watch by the medical on a Thursday that she found having a panic attack in his cell sometime over that weekend. She said that she contacted the on-call doctor who ordered medications to assist the panic attack that weekend. Ms. Johnson stated that she felt the inmate just needed someone to talk to and someone to be there for them. Conclusion and findings. Ms. Johnson could not provide any specifics of many of her claims and often acknowledged that these things did not occur in her presence and were actually hearsay. Number 2, Ms. Johnson had previously been a long-term employee of the former medical vendor. And number 3, as sheriff, and by the statute, the keeper of the jail, and after a thorough investigation, I am satisfied that the current vendor has provided satisfactory medical care to inmates in the Pitt County Detention Center. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Jerry McRoy.
Big thank you to Sheriff Vance for taking your last. All right, I've got your sign again tonight. I'll try to remember it this time so that your public information officer doesn't take it. My name is Jerry McRoy. You probably know that by now. I live on the edge of Greenville. Actually, my address is Winterville. I have no planned speech for tonight. I usually have a word-by-word speech, but I do not tonight. I have no timing on my presentation. I usually time everything down to 3 minutes as close as I can. I do not tonight. However, I have several topics. The first one is the monument, which has been down for over a year, that even if you take it down according to state statutes, for a project, it has to be put back within 90 days. So I've been working also with people from Pasquotank County who have a monument that is they're trying to take down. But so far, they've not been able to take it down because they actually have a court injunction to prevent them taking that monument down. So I've been working with people on the positive side of keeping that monument in place for a couple of months now. I sent an email to all their commissioners last week, as a matter of fact. The destruction of Southern history and heritage must stop. Next topic, meeting recording for citizens. These meetings are recorded video and audio for citizens to go back and review at a later time if they can't be at the meeting. When all of you have a large plexiglass shield beside you and in front of you usually, and you wear a mask the entire time you're speaking, it makes it extremely difficult to hear some of you and to get clarity on what you're actually saying. As a matter of fact, in recent meetings, I have seen people stand here, present to you, and then have commissioners ask them questions, and they would say, I'm sorry, I can't understand you. And some of you would have to pull your mask down to speak so people could actually understand you. This is a public meeting, and those recordings are important. The remote versus in person. The county attorney read something from state statute saying hybrid meetings were not allowed. However, it appears that's what you guys have been doing. And she says there's a time thing. You say in advance where we're going from in-person to remote rules, but yet everybody's pretty much here except for one or two people. That just doesn't seem kosher. The mask, in my opinion, okay,
Please conclude your
stop.
remarks.
I will stop. Thank you.
Mr. McGrory, if you take your sign, please.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Next, we have Mildred Council.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because I'm keeping my mask on because I'm trying to be safe and keep you safe because we don't know what anyone has. And so I want to be safe and I want you to be safe too. And that means everybody that I'm in contact with. Everybody still hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So anyway, I'm here tonight to speak on redistricting. I just happened to see it on your agenda. And I just want to say to you that it is a very, very important issue, as we all know, and we know redistricting happens every 10 years and it's about to occur again. So I just like for you to know when I was on the school board, redistricting happened and I was redistricted out of my district. So when it was time for me to vote, my name was on the ballot, but the ballot that I had to vote, my name was missing. So I could not vote for myself. My husband could not vote for me, nor could my son vote for me. So I'm a victim of improper redistricting. So I just want you all to be aware of that. So I just say to you, make sure our county does it fair and equitable and in order, because it's not about one person, it's about all of us. Going back to my story just a little bit, had I had someone running against me that particular time, I could have lost. But fortunately, I was unopposed. So I missed those 3 votes that I know was going to vote for me. My vote, my husband's vote, and Logan's vote, who was serving at that time as a US diplomat. So he voted absentee. So I know that it does matter. So whatever you do, monitor this county and everything within your control to make sure it's done and properly and in order. Thank you for your time. Everybody hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Can't talk behind masks loud and clear, because I was taught that way in Pitt County schools. Speak up, loud and clear. And that's how I teach my 4-Hers. Speak up.
Madam Chairwoman, that's all we have signed up, unless there's somebody in the audience who'd like to come forward.
Okay. Seeing none, we will close the public address time and move to the public hearing. The first public hearing is the public hearing on authorizing resolution for Pitt area transit fiscal year 22-23 community transportation program grant. Cam, you're at podium. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening to the board. This is a recurring presentation in consideration of our application that we annually submit to the North Carolina Department of Transportation as a subrecipient from the Federal Transit Administration. These are 5311 funds, and the state of North Carolina is appointed to sub-allocate those, and we are one of the county transit authorities that apply for those. This year, we are seeking $192,000, $192,184 for administrative grant funding. That is requiring a 15% local match of $33,916 for a total of $226,098. We're also seeking $126,802 through the state rural capital program. That requires a 10% local match of $14,090, bringing a total for the capital portion to $140,892. This is bring a total combined funding request of $366,990 with a total local match of $77,238 combined. The grant funding for the capital expenditures covers 2 conversion transit vehicles, and the administrative costs cover office supplies, training, and some salaries and things of that nature. That concludes that portion. I'm certainly open to questions.
At this time, we open the public hearing. Is that what we do?
Yes.
At this time, we will open the public hearing for anybody to speak for or against this.
So Madam Chairwoman, we have nobody signed up unless there's somebody in the audience. And we need to, for the minute purposes, to specifically ask for public comments on this public hearing matter.
Okay.
That hearing, there's nobody coming forward. There's nobody signed up, so I think you can close the public hearing.
Okay. I will close the public hearing on this item and move to approve it.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion to approve, Madam Chair.
Second, Madam Chair.
It's been moved and second that we approve this item. Are you ready for the question? Madam Clerk?
Yes, Chairwoman Foy Huggins.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we will move to the next item, which is Compute North LLC zoning ordinance text amendment request. James Rose is going to come up and tell us about that.
We'll try to, Madam Chair, but I'm not seeing the screen. Got to move production up here. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. You might recall earlier this year, we brought before you a whole barrage of development ordinances that were amended as part of the updated planning legislation for North Carolina. Since that time, we've had 2 requests for additional amendments, and tonight we're here for 2 public hearings. The first is for a request by Compute North LLC to amend the Pitt County zoning ordinance to add data processing facilities, large scale, to the table of permitted uses. And with this, the proposed amendment includes development standards, and I'll go ahead and let you know that this is somewhat mimicked after our regulations for your solar farms, and you're familiar with that. That's a special use permit that comes before you for review. So a lot of what you'll hear procedurally and development standard wise pretty much copies what we've seen in those sets of regulations. So here's our permitted use table. And again, the way the statutes for North Carolina read, if it's not expressly permitted in your zoning ordinance, it's not allowed. So first up, for this type of land use, we don't have it in our ordinance. So we're inserting this into our table of permitted uses. And with that, this particular land use would be allowed as a special use permit coming before you for review. You may recall class 1s go to you, class 2 special use permits go to the Board of Adjustment. So this would be allowed within the rural agriculture district, rural residential, general commercial, and highway commercial as a special use permit and permitted by right in light industrial and general industrial. So for our different types of development standards, again, we've mentioned which zones it would be permitted within. The height, no taller than 35 feet in height. Use separation, 2 standards here, 50 feet from the boundary of the facility to any structures, and a 100-foot setback or separation from any residence. There are some middle requirements, again, very similar to what we require for the solar farms, a narrative, a site plan, and different types of studies that may be required. Other things also include meeting the requirements of the state building code, underground wiring in this case, standards for the access roads and for security fencing. Security fencing is required, 8-foot height all the way around the perimeter of the site. Screening is required. Also, this particular type of facility is a large utility provider or utility user, I should say. And with that, similar to our solar farms, we will require that there is evidence that the electric provider has consented to this type of use to go in. Limited signage is permitted. Of course, any signage as far as appropriate warning signs are permitted wherever. Then the abandonment clause, similar to solar farms, once we're notified of that, we can require and can actually remove these unused facilities with proper notice if the owner doesn't do it themselves. So some of our staff comments, these are similar in scope and size to the solar farms that I've mentioned. So a lot of standards are similar, which as far as administration makes things a little bit easier. And we feel like these are very comparable in some respects. And again, some significant amount of electricity is utilized for these types of facilities. And therefore the electrical utility provider has to approve the system. So what exactly is this? And this is part of the definition section that's included as part of the amendment tonight. Data processing facility, large scale, a building, dedicated space within a building or group of structures located on 1 or more acres of land used to house a large group of computer systems and associated components such as telecommunications and data processing systems to be used for the remote storage, processing, or distribution of large amount of data. And there's several other things that go on to this. Again, this is the large scale, not the smaller scale, and it is not an accessory use. This is the primary use on a particular piece of property. So the board reviewed the same information the planning board did back in August, and they unanimously recommended approval of this and also consented that it is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan and is reasonable and in the public's interest. So we do have 2 motions that have been included as part of your package tonight. But prior to that, Madam Chair, we can go forward with the public hearing.
Okay, thank you. We'll now open the public hearing. Do we have anybody sign up to speak for?
Yes, we have one person signed up, Jeff Jackson. If you'll give us your name and basically address who you're with.
And Madam Chair, I'll keep your time at 5 minutes per speaker during public hearings.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. I'm Jeff Jackson, the Vice President of Site Development for Compute North. I thank the commission for having me and thank Pitt County for having us. Just to give a quick explanation, we had gone through a presentation for the planning board that went into a little bit more detail, but in summary, we'd like to build a data center in Pitt County. I think I'm happy to respond to any questions during the Q&A period, but a little background on Compute North. We were founded in 2017 by co-founders, one who came from a background on data centers and one who came from a background on energy. And really the overall mission of Compute North is to disrupt the data center industry and how it's currently run by providing low-cost computing. Right now, the way that typical data centers are operated, they have a lot of redundancy and they're very high cost with backup generation. Excuse me. The way that we'd like to operate our data centers are much more low-cost, interruptible to provide a lower cost compute for our customers. We have 3 operational facilities in Nebraska, one in South Dakota, and one in Texas. And we're growing rapidly and would love to come to Pitt County. And happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Okay. Do we have anybody speaking? No questions. Thank you.
He is the only speaker unless there's somebody else in the audience who'd like to come forward.
Anybody else?
I'd like to ask Mr. Rose a question.
If not, I will quickly close the.
Mary has a question.
Oh, Mary.
Yes,
Commissioner
Mr.
Perkins
Rose,
Williams have a question.
we talked about when the property is vacated and it's empty. What happens about debris, trash, and the like? Where's the responsibility lie? I guess you know why I'm asking.
Well, if it becomes a solid waste management issue, certainly we've got regulations that help control that. But as far as the removal of equipment, the owner is responsible for that. If they do not participate in that after it's closed for over a year, the county can step in.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll declare the public hearing closed.
Madam Chair, motion to approve.
I second it.
It's been moved in second that we approve. Are you ready for the question? You have two motions to make.
Can you take them both at once?
Ms. Rose, can we put them together? Do we? need
Yes,
to do
ma'am,
separate?
please do.
Yeah, okay. Okay, who made a motion?
Commissioner
I
Carlson.
did.
Can you put them together?
I'm sorry. I can't hear you.
Put the two motions together.
Okay. Flip
I
past.
have it noted that way in the record.
She has it
Okay.
noted.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. If that's the case, we'll move forward with the vote.
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner McGowan,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Thank you. We'll move to the third one. Is that right, Ms.
Okay,
Rose?
and again, the second public hearing for our development ordinances tonight is for the subdivision ordinance amendments. And these are 2 fairly minor requirements, but have garnered a lot of attention at the planning board level. And the first one is the notification of adjacent property owners. It's not a requirement by state law. I will tell you, planning and legal staff have gone back and forth on this a number of times, and the planning board has decided that it is the right thing to do. That we notify property owners within 500 feet of the parcel that's being subdivided. And these are for the major subdivisions, which are typically 10 lots or larger being proposed. And that also requires that be done within 10 days of the planning board meeting. The other item is the minimum width. We've had some very oddly and strangely configured lots of late, some with, I'll say, panhandled, dog legs, whatever you want to call them, that might only be about 5 foot wide. That is somewhat problematic for installation of septic systems and a number of other issues. So with this, our minimum width, and this is just not a number we pulled out of the air, the 40-foot width. Remember, we do allow flag-shaped lots, and typically for access purposes, that flagpole, if you want to look at it that way, is required to be at least 40 foot in width. So we've gone ahead and used that minimum width for any portion of the lot. So whether it is some other area to go to an off-site septic system or just an oddly configured lot for whatever reason, the minimum width at any point along that lot cannot be less than 40 feet unless the parent parcel already has some limitations that has a width of less than 40 feet. That's all scripted in the language a lot better than I just described it. So with that, the planning board reviewed this back in August and did recommend unanimously for the board to consider these two amendments tonight. So with that, Madam Chair, we're ready for the public hearing.
Okay, public hearing is now open. Do we have anyone speaking?
No, ma'am, there's nobody signed up unless there's somebody in the audience.
Seeing none?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
is it appropriate for me to ask Mr. Rhodes a few
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rhodes. I had a couple questions. I think you've explained the why, the issue with abnormally formed lots. But you've answered my first one, but I have two questions related to, I guess, just on the ground division of plots as you're developing subdivision. The first is, does the proposed amendment allow for flexibility in the situation where, let's say, the parent parcel is 60 feet wide, and there's provision made for a shared easement driveway, say 30 and 30 on the other side? You could see some situations where you're looking to consolidate space and you may have that flag that together is 60, you share a driveway, and then you've got, kind of a button on the outside. Is there enough flexibility to built in to this modification, or is the 40 kind of just like hey, we're gonna require this. If you don't meet the 40, we're not gonna look at it.
Well, for access purposes, 40 is required. It has been required for about 30 years. It has served us well because of ensuring that people have adequate access provisions. We do not allow easements for access. These have to be actually part of the lot. So these flagpoles that I've mentioned, they are required to be at least 40 feet, and there's rhyme and reason as why that width is what it is. It deals with the driveway tile and the amount of separation on either side of that. So the 40-foot and the easement part of things, we really don't contend with as far as access. You either have the road frontage that provides you that access in and of itself, or unless there's some other exemption, that lot could not be subdivided.
So I raised it. I had a constituent that reached out that developed such a parcel where you had a shared drive. And their question was whether or not it would have been disqualified under this regime.
I don't see
I'm
where
not,
that changes at all, because the access requirements have been the same and will remain the same. It's the matter, really, the way I see this is on the backside. After you go up the flagpole into the bulk of the lot, we then have some other issues on the backside of the lot, where it might narrow down to 5-10 feet, and that's problematic.
So, and the dirt lawyer in me, I'm sorry, I hate the level down in on this, but so under our current zoning regulations and planning, you could not have a 60-foot lot and grant a shared easement for a shared drive and subdivide that parcel into two.
There's 10 different factors that go along with that. How large is the other tract that you're looking at? It's a case by case basis.
Right, I guess what I'm asking, presumably if it's would such a situation be disqualified under this regime?
I don't see any difference. I don't see, again, there might be one or two configurations like you're speaking of, but most of the issues come at the access point,
right, except
except for these newfangled dog legs out the backside. So I'll be glad. We need to sit down with a pen and paper and maps and go through any scenarios I think might be better served.
Okay.
Be glad to do that.
Commissioner Colson?
James, what I don't understand, if this is going to be a new subdivision or a subdivision of a property, then what is it, Cheek Farm Road, where they were proposing access to repair fields, and they had 10-foot wide adjacent parallel, it looked like a labyrinth almost. Why wouldn't that 40-foot apply to that as well? Because you need access back there.
It will, but again, our access requirements right now are only the access to the state maintained road or to a private road. This maintains at least a 40-foot width all the way through that lot to that offsite septic system you're speaking of.
So then those 10-foot wide areas will no longer be allowed.
Correct. If you adopt this
Well,
tonight.
that's good news. Thank you.
You can share that map with Commissioner Nunley and he'll get a better feel for what we're contending with.
Chris, you'll appreciate this, man.
Well, let me just be clear, I guess, in my comments that I'm concerned about inflexibility and creativity in development. And what I don't want us to do is we're looking to consolidate growth and have more condensed growth to save our rural spaces. To eliminate a situation where we might be creative to share some car space, if that makes sense. So that we can pack more into smaller areas to save some of our farms. And so that's where I'm driving with this. I just don't like the 10-foot bad idea, right? It may be disqualifying, but 40-foot, is there a situation where, say, a 30-foot with the shared drive might be a good solution? I don't know, but that's where my questions come from, and that's where they stem from. Not to prove the bad example, but to what we put on paper drives kind of what folks do on the paper, the drawing board. And I just want to make sure we're not.
Yeah, I will tell you, this hasn't been a problem until most recently. And I can't really remember other lots where the situation you're talking about has ever come up before. Not to say that it won't tomorrow, but I think it would be a very odd situation. What you're speaking of would be a problem here. And if it is that odd situation, we do have variance procedures through our Board of Adjustment.
So there's variance availability.
Yes.
Okay, that answers my question easy. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Manager?
Sorry about that.
Mr. Manager?
Yeah, I was going to throw my 2 cents in as a former planner. The 40-foot lot minimum is there for a couple of reasons. One being for public access for emergency purposes, fire, EMS, sheriff, and the other being that if Mr. Nunley and if he grants me an easement across his 40 or 60-foot lot, would be a legal easement, but if it were to be blocked or he were to try to block my access, then it could become a legal matter where I couldn't access my land. So just a couple of reasons why we require and like to have each individual lot to have its own legal frontage onto a public road or private road, however you look at it.
All right, thank you. If there are no other questions, we will close the public hearing on this item. Okay, and move forward the adoption.
Madam Chairman, I move to approve the economic development incentive.
I second.
It's been moved in second that we
Oh, am I ahead? Is this one to approve the amendments with the effective date of September the 28th? Is that it?
The subdivision.
Yes,
Right.
ma'am, that's
Yeah.
it.
Okay, okay. All right, it's been moved in second that we approve the amended with the date stated as effective date. Are you ready for the question? Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McGlaughlin.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White. Yes. Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We'll move to the fourth one, I believe, economic development incentive. The Project Royal, Kelly Andrews, will come forth.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, Commissioners. I'm presenting Project Royal this evening for your consideration. This project is an existing Pitt County industry that manufactures custom corrugated boxes, and they're currently expanding by adding a new machine at the cost of $4 million and a building addition at a cost of $2 million, along with 3 to 4 new employees at a minimum. This will increase their capacity by 35% in a very competitive industry. And as part of their expansion, they need to upgrade a current water line for fire suppression purposes at a cost of $80,000. So doing the math on this $80,000 incentive, the new tax base for that $6 million investment, we would realize that return on investment in just over 2 years. And as this industry, this company serves many of our local companies and is located in a distressed area of Pitt County, but is expanding. Pitt County Economic Development respectfully asks for your approval of this incentive and the authorization of development of the incentive agreement between Pitt County and Project Royal.
Have anybody signed up to?
No, ma'am, we have nobody
Open,
signed up.
open the public hearing. Do we have anybody signed up?
No, ma'am, unless there's somebody in the audience.
And commissioners, do you have questions?
Motion to approve, Madam Chair.
Close your public hearing first, if you will.
The public hearing is now closed. Now I entertain a motion.
Motion to approve, Madam Chair.
Okay. It's been moved in second that the, let's see, where I've lost my space. The Economic Development Incentive Project Royal be approved as presented. Are you ready for the question? Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McGlaughlin.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White. Yes. Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yeah.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Now we will move to item 5, public hearing on possible amendment to the law enforcement ordinance number 4. Attorney Gallagher.
Yes, Madam Chair, this is brought back to you after conversation from your last meeting where the board suggested that law enforcement ordinance number 4 be brought back for consideration of 3 varying options. One being, and they're set forth in your packet on page 19, one being to prohibit concealed handguns on county-owned property, one being to make no change, and the other being to, adopt the second proposal. So you have 2 proposals. One is to limit it on county-owned property, and the other is to limit it in any room in which the Board of Commissioners meets. So those are your 3 options. I'm sorry, that may be confusing. If you need to repeat them, I will. If not, you'll need to open your public hearing to consider public's thoughts on this ordinance, and then you may act afterward.
Okay. Public hearing is now open. Do we have anybody signed up to speak?
Yes, we have Jerry McRoy.
Okay,
Will come
Mr.
forward,
Roy,
please.
will you come forward?
And I'll keep your time at 5 minutes per speaker.
Yes, thank you.
On this issue, I've been noticing in the last few meetings that you guys seem to have been, perhaps the word is frightened, by people who contest against you for things like the monument takedown. For other issues, we've had people on both sides of that issue presenting to you. And the language that some of you have used were, there was forceful language. One of you complained that people got too close to you. So this barrier has been put in place. Oddly enough, tonight, I noticed there were people standing right up next to your desk in two different groups to be recognized, which is great. But you were afraid because we had one person holding a blanket up and a couple other of us pointing to things on the blanket to do with the monument that seemed to create fear. This particular issue on concealed carry, and by the way, I have a concealed carry permit stamped with the sheriff. I've been fingerprinting the whole deal. I got it last August because my wife is a concealed carry person. And she told me when all the hubbub started last year, all the racial unrest and all the rioting in the streets, she said, you need to go get a concealed carry permit. Open carry is allowed in most places in North Carolina, but not concealed carry. So I went to class. I took concealed carry, the safety course. I passed that accordingly. Did the firing test. Took my certification to the sheriff's office where I got the fingerprinting and the whole deal so I could get my concealed carry permit. Now, to put you at ease, I don't have a firearm on me tonight. And I've never attended one of your meetings with a firearm on me. Could I have? Yes. Did I? No, because I really didn't see the need. However, I think it's a frivolous use of funds when the commissioner board votes to have things like metal detectors and extra staff to run the metal detectors outside the room door before people come into meetings to make sure they don't have a weapon on them or anything that could cause you ill. To be honest, you live in the county, you come and go, you drive cars, you have homes. If someone wanted to harm you, there's lots of places they could do it other than a recorded commissioner meeting where they would be on, their crime would be on video and it would be recorded. So to me, I would urge you to have no change to this ordinance. The other part where I've heard a commissioner speak to the fact that there should be no concealed carry allowed in any county office building, to me is even more foolish. There are a lot of mass shootings in the United States and other places in the world. A lot of times they're bad people with obviously bad intentions. Sometimes they may have stolen a gun from their mother or father. They may have stolen a gun on the street. Or they may have purchased a gun perhaps legally. I don't know every circumstance. But here's the thing. If you make this change and you disallow any concealed carry from people who have been vetted and certified that they know how to use a firearm, as a couple of you have made the good point of, these people that concealed carry are probably the safest people that come into this room. But if you make that change, there could come the time down the road where even with armed deputies in the room and in the hallways, a bad person with bad intentions could blow past any any menial security measures you have in place, come into this room and cause you harm. And at that point, you will wish there was a good guy with a gun in the room. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay, do-
That's all we
Thank-
have signed up, Madam Chairwoman.
At this time, we will close the public hearing and then give commissioners a chance to discuss it. Okay.
Madam Chair.
The public hearing is now closed.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Yes, Commissioner McGawhorn.
I would like to still argue the fact that my proposal will be no firearms on any county property, period.
That would be proposal 2 within your packet.
Yes. That's, so you're, is that a motion?
I have a couple of comments.
Okay, all right. Commissioner White?
Concealed carry people, they have to take a class, pass a background check and apply to the sheriff's office, and they're vetted by the sheriff for any issues that could make them deemed unsafe to carry concealed. I actually feel safer if I know that I have somebody carrying concealed around me. They're some of the safest people that you can be around. And like I said, they go through extensive background checks. My suggestion is that we leave law enforcement ordinance number 4 as it is, where you can carry concealed on county-owned property.
Commissioner Nunley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I would support Commissioner McLaughlin's position, and I think it's important when we consider it that we note that to restrict firearms on county property in total is not a decision that people that carry concealed firearms are dangerous. It's not a suggestion that, in fact, any member of the public is more or less dangerous. It is a statistical decision and a policy that we make, that we are statistically safer if there are not firearms in our presence. And a county building and a government building, in my view, is a place where as policymakers, we make the statistical determination that fewer firearms is better. And that is not a indictment on anyone that carries and applies for and secures the privilege to carry concealed permit. I think it's also important to note that the ordinance as written does give the sheriff the authority to deputize citizens and carry. And I would submit to this board and to our membership and to the public that it is not a good idea to conflate the deputization of our citizenry to protect us from harm. Vigilantism is not something that we ought to encourage, especially not on county-run property. And for those 2 reasons, the statistics of it, us being safer, and 2, that we ought not to deputize citizens or conflate deputization of citizens with a concealed carry permit, I would support the proposition that we disallow the carrying of concealed handguns on county government property.
Commissioner Albright?
Yeah, thank you. In support of Commissioner Nunnally and Commissioner McLaughlin, what they said, I would also suggest that if the law remains the same, it makes it quite difficult for us to, at any point, should we decide to bring in metal detectors, to actually use those effectively. We would have people walking through the metal detectors who have permits, while we're only really trying to keep out the people who don't, but the metal detector isn't going to tell the difference. And I think I agree with Commissioner McGraw and with Commissioner Nunley that guns on county-owned property are not appropriate for the reasons that have been stated. And in addition to that, the impracticality of ever being able to effectively control weapons or metal with a metal detector.
Commissioner Colson?
I'd like to remind the board that since the ordinance was modified some years ago, there has been zero, I repeat, zero incidences. And Chris, I beg to differ. It is not vigilantism to be able to have a concealed carry. That has nothing to do with it. And I'm sorry that you interpret the law so liberally as to say that. And yes, you are indicting the concealed carry people as being threatening and I'm going to say criminal because we're so afraid of them coming on the county property. Again, and although, Madam Chair, you said that you didn't believe what I said, and I have said in a past meeting, I asked you to look it up and prove me wrong. A concealed carry permit holder is 1/6 as likely to commit a crime, any crime, as a law enforcement officer. They are the safest members of this society. And Lauren, thank you for your comments.
I'd also like to add that if somebody wants to cause harm to one or any of us, they can do so without a gun.
And let me follow up too, because and think about, when we talk about mass murders that have happened, where do these people pick? They pick situations where everybody they know is disarmed. So they go in there and they can then commit their travesty on society and nobody's there to stop them. Or they hide up in a hotel, which is not much different, and shoot into a crowd like in Las Vegas and kill 100 people. None of these people that I know of are concealed carry holders. They are not the ones that create the problems.
Okay. Commissioner, Mr. Manager.
Ms. Ward,
I
you can
had
speak.
a question. I'm not sure that we have that here, but what do we have an ordinance spelled out relative to concealed carry?
You
I
have-
mean, is it one that we can hear?
Well, it's the one that you.
I mean, I see what's here. Is this actually the ordinance?
Ordinance number 4 actually prohibits carrying deadly weapons in county buildings, but it has a carve out that allows for concealed carry people to carry firearms as long as they have a concealed carry permit.
Right. Well, that's kind of what I wanted the public to hear. And if you'll just kind of repeat that and make it clear about what is in place now.
So again, the current ordinance number 4, ordinance prohibiting the carrying of deadly weapons in county buildings or permitting the posting of signs to prohibit the carrying of deadly weapons in county buildings. So this was, the original ordinance was adopted in 1996. We amended it in 2015 to allow concealed carry within the county office buildings. And I will have to, Madam Chairman, if I can expound upon, I will have to say, we, as Commissioner Colson said, we've had no incidences with concealed carry. And I'm speaking on behalf of the county workforce in terms of employees. Also, we do not deputize our employees and tell them that if somebody comes in the building, you're to go out there and start on the front lines. That weapon is there for their benefit if they're threatened, if somebody comes in their office. But we've told them, if you go out and try to address the situation, law enforcement might think you are the perpetrator of it and get shot yourself. But we definitely have not told our workforce to go out and defend your coworkers or the building itself. Another rationale back in 2015 was we have a lot of employees, not a lot, a number of employees who work after hours in the dark, split shifts after meetings, and feel safer leaving the building with a concealed carry after hours and situations here on Fifth Street in this area, as well as other areas. I guess I would recommend keeping the ordinance as.
Scott, would you also share the survey that you took at the time?
The survey.
The survey that was asking the people in the county office buildings whether or not they would support it. It was overwhelmingly, if you don't have.
Oh, back from 2015?
Yes.
Yeah, it was overwhelmingly, they felt it was an okay thing to do, overwhelmingly.
Well, Madam Chair,
Let's hear from Commissioner Nunley. He has not. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, and I'm glad that the manager presented the example and I think it tails in with exactly what Commissioner Colson noted. And I hope that it's not mistaken that we have a bunch of crazy vigilantes out there. That's not my intent with making the argument, Commissioner Colson. The impulse to defend is good. We all have it. In fact, you're right, most likely, that the concealed carry permit holder, probably on balance, if we're going to make broad judgments, does so to protect themselves and potentially protect others. I would submit that the example that that Manager Elliott points out, a situation where, of course, we advise our workforce that if you do have a gun on you, that you're not going to respond to a situation and go and insert yourself into a volatile situation because law enforcement could mistake you for someone else. I would submit in reality, it's not that clean and neat. If there are more guns in any given situation, there's more risk for more death, period. It's statistics. It's a numbers gamut. And I would argue that as it applies to county buildings, there's absolutely no need to carry a firearm in a county building. Law enforcement responding to a threat is safer without our workforce carrying firearms and responding in good faith with good impulse to a volatile situation. So I'd argue that we go back to the way that it was prior to 2015, exclude firearms from county buildings. And look, we're talking about county property here, guys. We're not making a rule for the public. We're not talking about taking away people's concealed carry permits. We're just saying, look, just as in the Wild West, when you walked into the bar and the saloon, you leave your guns at the door. Leave your guns at the door when you come to government property. I think that's a reasonable proposition, and I think that's where we need to be.
I would like to say something. I think we received an email from an employee speaking against this change, but the person also stated that she did not feel, and I'm not sure whether it's a she or he right now, but I'm going to say she did not feel safe in the building because there were no metal detectors in the building. I believe we all got that email. So when I read it, I said, even though she was speaking against this change and wanting to carry concealed weapons, she also pointed out that we did not have the protection that's needed for the employees in this building. So I guess she felt safer being a concealed carrier. So I just want to put that out there to you. Commissioner Carson?
I'd like to point out that there are many law enforcement officers across the country, sheriffs, police chiefs, and so on, that have made comments in support of concealed carry and the allowing of them to carry on properties such as what we're talking about. Chris, you're making an impassioned speech based on no specific examples. You speak of things, but you don't tell me exactly when. Give me an incident, give us an incident of where specifically what you're saying has happened? Is there one?
Madam Chair.
Or is it just thinking
Madam
that,
Chair.
oh gee, we're safe?
And then I believe Commissioner McLaughlin wants to say something after Commissioner Nunley.
So,
McLaughlin have not talked yet, so then we'll come to you. On this particular item, other than
Thank you.
very first, I'm sorry, he did.
so. I think
Thank you,
maybe-
Matt.
or would you like me to respond or?
Yes,
first?
go
Okay.
ahead. You-
So I think that you could, for the board, you could take any factual situation where there are fewer firearms and draw the conclusion that that's a safer environment because there are fewer firearms in a controlled environment. Airports, the courthouse. We're talking about government buildings where there's an increased public demand for safety and security. Sporting events, major sporting events. I could throw a hypothetical out there, but I don't want to play games with false numbers, but there are many instances where leading law enforcement agencies and security agencies have made the decision that it is a better decision to prohibit firearms on the premises of an airport, major sporting events, courthouse. So I view government buildings in the same vein. We have an increased public interest that we have a less, we mitigate the risk of deadly force occurring within our government space by making this determination.
Madam Chair, since he's responding to a question I asked him, I would like to point out all of the incidences of mass murder, there are limited firearms there. There are a very few firearms. Controlled by whom? The evildoer, the person that commits the crime. Because we as a society seem to think, gee, let's leave our schools and our churches and everywhere else defenseless, which is just an open invitation. So you're right about the limited firearms, but unfortunately you're wrong as to who controls them, Chris, in the incidents that you worry about.
All right, Commissioner McLaughlin.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. As a former firearm instructor, and as the reason stated so eloquently by Commissioner Nunley, I'd like to make a motion that we, the county commissioners, eliminate any firearms on county property as it was originally intended. And that is my motion, if I can get a second.
I'll make a substitute motion that we leave ordinance number 4 as is, because what I was going to say, we need to do what our county employees, how they feel safest. I'm going to concur with our county manager. Most of our county employees feel safest still being allowed to carry concealed, not just what makes a few of us feel safe. So I'm making a substitute motion to leave law enforcement ordinance number 4 as is.
I second her
it.
motion.
Just a minute, Attorney.
You'd need a second to Commissioner McLaughlин's motion, and then you could consider your substitute.
Okay, it's been a second by Commissioner Nunley.
Okay, thank you. And then you have a
And I'm
substitute.
putting what I just said out there on the floor.
And I second Lauren's motion, substitute motion.
Okay. All right, so we will take the
Substitute motion
Substitute.
first.
substitute motion.
Which
first.
is number 2. On here.
No,
No.
no.
What is
Number
No.
3.
number 3?
Number 3 is that we keep it as is
Correct.
with that,
Which is.
That's what I want
that's
stated,
Lauren's
so
substitute.
the public can be read.
that people will be able to carry concealed weapons on county property.
As it has since when?
2015.
Madam Chair, could
we use page numbers? So they all look the same to me.
Page 19 on the bottom has your motions, 1, 2, and 3 spelled out on
Yeah.
the bottom.
So your page on your proposals in your packet, proposal 1 prohibits concealed carries in board meetings. Proposal 2 prohibits concealed carry everywhere. You don't have a proposal 3 because that leaves the ordinance exactly the way it is. There would be no change made.
All right. And that's the motion that Lauren made.
Yes. Leave it as.
Leave it as is.
Okay,
So we're voting on my motion first, correct?
Correct.
okay, all in favor of voting,
You have to roll call.
I'm sorry.
That's
It's been moved in
proposal 3.
second that we do the substitute motion first, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Chairwoman Floyd Hogan.
No.
Commissioner Albright.
No.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin.
No.
Commissioner Nunley.
No.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
No.
Motion fails 5-3.
Okay. Thank you. And now we will have the next motion that to not have firearms, not allow firearms on any county property. That's been moved in second. So Madam Clerk,
Concealed.
Chairwoman Floyd Hogan.
yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
No.
Commissioner McLaughlin.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
I'm sorry, my brain just went dead. Is this to prohibit concealed handguns on the county property at all?
Correct.
Okay, no.
Commissioner White.
No.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-3.
And since, Madam Chair, since that was not unanimous and it's an ordinance change, it will come back at your next meeting for a second reading.
Okay. Thank you. All right. We will now close that public hearing. I think we've already closed it and voted on it. We're now to the. Is that page 27 we on there?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
All right, that's what people.
Okay, we'll now move to redistricting of the Pitt County Board of Commissioners voting district. And I believe we have Mr. Rose up again.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, and members of the board, we're about halfway through the redistricting process already. Remember, we've got a very compressed timeline, so we're about 6 weeks into it. You got about 6 left before the deadline schedule, the deadline that's posed in our schedule. So tonight, I will be presenting back to you information about the map, the plan that was presented at your last meeting. Certainly, there's been a lot of input, and I really appreciate those that have called or have come by the office to provide your input over the last couple of weeks. But tonight, we're going back to the plan that was publicly presented at your last meeting, and also soliciting comments during a public hearing. And I'll just go through some of the main highlights here. Number one, with help of staff as well as the Public Information Office, we do have a webpage that has all this information, and that link is listed on the screen right now in blue. So as we continue our discussion, possibly create additional maps, all those will be housed on this particular website. So tonight we'll go through a number of things, but just want to go back and remind you our primary purpose in going through redistricting. And that's to ensure that we have basically similar numbers of folks in the same districts. And I'll show you the mathematical equations in just a little while. But ultimately, we don't want more than a -5 or +5 deviation from our target number. And speaking of such, our new population for the county is just over 170,000. You divide that by our 6 seats, And you come up with this magical 28,374. So that is our target number. We don't want to be 5% above or below that number. And remember, we're dealing with specific geographic units that are provided by the Census Bureau, and the smallest one that we have to develop these maps would be your census blocks. And some of those, kind of like the lots we dealt with earlier, somewhat strangely configured, but we will factor those in as well. So we've been through this and realized when we looked at our current boundaries and current voter districts that we're out of sorts. We don't meet that plus 5% or negative 5% deviation. In fact, 3 districts, 2, 3, and 4 are outside of that range. So our working assumptions, again, first, equal protection, 1 person, 1 vote, having similar numbers of people per district. Contiguous boundaries, and also not diluting the minority voting strength. And typically that deals with districts 1 and 2. You heard a speaker before, protection of incumbents. We've been able to achieve that so far in this redistricting process. All the current sitting board members are still within their respective districts after the redrawing of the lines. Development of compact districts, and also use of existing voter district and precinct boundaries when practicable. And we've attempted to do that, but as you've seen, the numbers were out of kilter fairly substantially. So we're not able to retain all those voter district boundaries. So real quickly, we'll go through this. We start with District 2. District 2 was certainly had the largest deviation. So we start with that, but kind of grow that district. That district is also one of our majority minority districts. So with that, we had to grow further south. District 2 already covers everything north of the river. We had to come further south of the river. And you can see the existing, I can get my pointer. Okay, got the pointer. Again, Tar River here in this kind of cyan color. The darker blue is the existing boundary for the voter districts. And you can see District 2, which is green, has grown further south down past Stantonsburg Road to the railroad track now. And actually lost a little bit of area that went over to District 2, but here's the big area that's been changed in this particular proposal. And this is south of 5th Street and runs now on past Stantonsburg and down to the railroad track. And then just a little small area over here in the corner. So primarily that grew southward. And in turn, District 1 had to grow southward as well. To gain additional population and also help retain the majority minority designation. So you can see here on the south side and the Allen Road side. So this is all Allen Road running out to the Southwest Bypass, has now been brought into District 1 in this first plan, as well as the West Haven neighborhood and some of the neighborhoods right on the eastern end of Thomas Langston Road. Those 2 large blocks brought in. And then District 3, generally kind of like a spine along or using NC 33 or 10th Street as the backbone of that entire district, with the Tar River being the boundary on the north side, had to grow a little bit. It was out of kilter as well. So moved it into the downtown area. Took in the remainder of the Truna neighborhood, took in the remainder of the Truna neighborhood, just a small little block here off of Elm Street, as well as this one running all the way to the railroad track downtown. So all the downtown area up to a portion of 10th Street. It does exclude, this is the heart of East Carolina, that is still within District 1. So wraps on through downtown and a small portion of Dickinson Avenue. Then on to 4, we talked about some of the adjustments already, actually picking up a portion. And this one also removed and brought into District 4. And those large areas removed that were taken into District 1. One significant area that was moved over to District 4 from District 5 to make District 5 meet the deviation requirements a little better is this area between the railroad track and Memorial Drive, pretty much on the west side of Winterville. In addition, a small portion of District 6 was also added into District 4. And that's your large District 4 on the west side of the county in blue. And then ultimately, only that one change that I've already mentioned for District 5. And again, only one change to District 4, District 6, as we move further down. And that area, of course, was added to District 4. So the numbers in total, we've got a very small deviation above or below, less than 1.5 above or below. So that's good in that respect. The other thing, Districts 1 and 2 still have a majority minority population, both over 50%. And we've talked about the other population too, and that is self-reported. And you can see a significant percentage in both District 1 and 2, 10% in District 1 and 17%, above 17% in District 2. So tonight, Madam Chair, we're here to hold this public hearing, get input on this particular plan. Certainly, I know some of you might have some input as well. We also would like to go ahead and formally set the October 18th public hearing date. At that time, we'll be presenting any additional plans that might come for consideration. And then hopefully November 1st is your first opportunity to go ahead and consider adoption of that. You do have one other available meeting that would be November 15th, but your deadline is November 17th. And with that, Madam Chair, we're ready for the public hearing on this particular plan.
We'll now open the public hearing.
Madam Chairwoman, nobody signed up. Is there somebody in the audience?
Okay. Well, Ms. Council already spoken for it, so we don't have anybody else signed up for it. So we will close the public hearing and allow commissioners to talk. Move approved.
I have a comment.
Yes, Commissioner White.
James, I have been told that my district, with the way the lines may be, could possibly stay as is. So if that's the case, I've been talking to several people in my district who kind of, live in that little, I know it's not, losing much, but live in that little area up there that's going over to 4. I love my district and the people in it, so I would like to keep it current as is if that's a possibility.
And I'll just, for everyone's sake, just kind of pull up the original one. And just as Commissioner White was mentioning, her current district is only has a deviation of 1.5%. So that is doable, provided some other things also factor into that. Again, adjacent districts sometimes could have a factor in that, but at the time being, I do believe it's doable.
Thank you.
Excuse me, what are the numbers of voters that we're talking about in that particular part? Do we
It
know that?
is, you're gonna make me bring up some numbers off the
I'm
cuff.
sorry if you can get them to me later, but I just wondered what the numbers were, because I think taking some away is, you don't need that.
But I thought small deviations. It's really not losing
Okay,
much.
take it up. She sort of answered my question without the number.
I would say it's less than 500 people.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, if it's appropriate at this time, I'd like to make a motion that we set our next public hearing for this matter. And I believe that it's been suggested that that be a date of October 18th.
I second that.
That's right.
It's been moved and second that we set a second public hearing date. Are you ready for the question?
Where would
Question.
that review be done for this public hearing so the public can do it? Where,
Can you speak in the microphone, maybe James? can hear you?
oh, I'm sorry. I was asking, where would the public hearing be held so that the public would know?
This is considered a public hearing.
So you're having one public hearing now. This right here was. a
Right,
public
and the
hearing.
next one?
Will be October 18th, same place.
Same place.
That's what I won't say. That's, I mean, just
Sorry.
asking, just make it clear.
Okay, all right. Our next public hearing, which is right here in this place at our next meeting, public hearing. The public will be able to come and voice their opinion about the proposed maps.
Yes, ma'am. And I do believe, if you'd like, Madam Chair, I know we've received comments from other commissioners, and I would assume you would like us to bring back another map for consideration as well.
Yes, with
Okay.
those comments from other commissioners.
We will do that, and we will have that posted hopefully within the next week, which will provide plenty of time before the public hearing.
Okay, I believe we have a motion on the floor. Madam,
When they have that next public hearing, the public will be able to see the old and what is proposed new.
Yes,
The
ma'am.
public will be able to see what is proposed old or currently going on and what is proposed for the new.
Correct.
Thank you.
What we will have there are your existing districts today,
Mhm.
the plan we just went through, and then the new plan based off commissioner input.
And those will be on the county's website as well,
Those will
correct?
be on the county website.
I just want the public to hear without confusion.
Madam Clerk,
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins,
yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes,
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes,
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
James, before you leave the podium, as Commissioner Perkins Williams put emphasis on the public being able to get information, is it possible that the public could call and come in and actually look at the maps also?
I think we can
Versus-
make those accommodations, if not in our offices, maybe in a larger setting such as this. So yes, if you've got constituents that you would like to have that possibility, or we could set it up on screen as well if they have that capability. So there's a couple of options there.
Okay. Thank you.
Just let us know. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Okay. We're now at items for report, I believe, legislative updates, a summary from Attorney Gallagher.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. This is part of your new routine update for legislative summary. In your packet on pages 32 and 33 is a summary of those bills that were affecting counties since your last interim report. I'm happy to answer any questions about those. And I'll also supplement that the General Assembly continues to work on their budget. The budget conferees continue to meet this week. and it's expected that they may have a budget put together this week is the hope. So if there are any last minute input or changes to the budget that any of you would like to make, your time is coming near. You would need to reach out to any of your legislators or especially budget conferees as soon as possible. Also, just like we are having public hearings on redistricting, the state is also pursuing their redistricting process and having hearings across the state as well. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Well, I just want to comment, reading these, especially under law enforcement, you would think some of these things that we would be already doing. You know, I'm looking at House Bill 436 and some of those things there you would think would all but already be happening. So thank you for the information.
Great, you're welcome.
Any questions? Okay. If not, we move to the second item. Brian, you're up.
Can we just approve him and keep on going? Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to move to approve Brian's thing.
We've got a motion to approve the financial reports from our finance director.
Before he presents.
Yeah.
It's all good. But I'll go through it real quick, just so
See what
it's
a
on
great
public
job you
record.
did. We won't even have to hear what you say.
Yeah. You all have in front of you the financial report that ended for the month of August. This is our second month of the fiscal year. We are 16.67% through this particular year. On our general fund, we have collected 34.2% of our intended revenues while only spending 16.7%. In our solid waste fund, we've collected 48.9% of our revenues while spending 14.21% of our expenses. In our EMS fund, we have collected 39.53% of our revenues while only spending 26.69% of our expenditures. If you have any questions, I'll be more than glad to answer.
Okay. No questions, and now entertain a motion. Second.
I move that we approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second that we approve of the financial report for the general fund and the solid waste enterprise and index funds, August 31st. You ready for the question,
Okay.
Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Ford.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Did McGlone want to say something?
No.
Commissioner Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And move to the manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. A few things to report on your meeting dates for the next two meetings, October 18th and November 1st. They're at 6 p.m. and they'll be here in this room. I want to clarify that all of your meetings have been properly noticed under open meeting statutes, in that we actually do, whether it's 6 hours before, and actually for the meetings of late, we've actually advertised them as virtual meetings, even though the far majority of the board attends in person. You might have one commissioner, such as Commissioner McLaughlin, who is attending virtually. But since this allows the flexibility, even though the majority of you here are in person, they're noticed as virtual meetings. Item B for the Economic Development Workshop that is proposed for October 16th. It's being recommended to reschedule that to the first of the year. Facilitator we're trying to get is not available that date. And also, I really believe it's important for the new manager to be in attendance at that workshop to hear from you as you develop and guide Kelly Andrews with her program of work. Item C is a good news item. Don't mean to steal any of the sheriff's thunder, but her Sharp and Wear program at the Pitt County Detention Center was recently recognized by the North Carolina Jail Administrators Association. It received a Jail Innovation of the Year award. And we'd like to congratulate them for their good work and the things they do on behalf of the inmates at the detention center. And another good news item is regarding our Deputy County Manager, Chief Information Officer Mike Taylor. He has been recognized for what is called an Orbee Award. It's the Charlotte CIO of the Year Orbee Award. And basically, this is the CIO of the Year Orbee Award is the premier technology executive recognition program in the United States. Since inception in 1998, over 1,000 CIOs have been honored as finalists, and over 400 CIOs of the year winners have received the prestigious Orbee Award. The award honors the chief information officers who have demonstrated excellence in technology and leadership. So not only was Mike Taylor a finalist, he was named as the Orbee in the corporate category with budgeted monies of $1 billion or less. We have $200+ million budget. He was up against, I believe, the Mecklenburg County CIO, as well as in the two private sector, but he was named for this. So we'd like to congratulate him. This is a very prestigious honor for him, and just like to thank you for your service.
Congratulations.
Item D regarding the American Legion Fair security. As everybody's aware, the fair wrapped up yesterday at the American Legion Fairgrounds. And I've talked to Commissioner Colson about this, and we're going to bring this back on the 18th. We'll wait for a reconciliation paperwork to be received from the sheriff's office, and we can have further discussion as to how the board wants to handle that matter. Item F is a follow-up regarding the certificate of need request from a Monday Asset Management. As you recall, this was discussed at your last meeting on September 13th, and you continued it to this meeting. Additional research was done on this. At the same time, in reaching out and speaking to Monday Asset Management, it was being proposed possibly to continue one more meeting. They informed me that they would like to withdraw their request for this certificate of need to transfer the 29 beds from Winterville Manor to their proposed development. So that at this point in time, I have a verbal withdrawal on this matter. And then the last item I would like to report is not on the agenda. We had one of our, I'm going to call him a department head. He was close to the status of department head, Reggie Satterfield, who was our chief code enforcement officer for building inspections. That means he was over all of the building inspectors, passed away, I believe it was September 17th. He had 25 years of service with Pitt County, and his funeral was this past Saturday, which was a very, very nice event. And we'd just like to send our condolences to the family and friends of Mr. Satterfield, and just recognize his service to Pitt County. And we're thankful that we had it for the 25 years we had.
Certainly, we want to send our condolences. Yes.
And that's all I have.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the items for consent.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we approve the items for consent. You ready for the question, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Chairwoman Floyd Hogan.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McGowan.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. We're down to items for decision. First one being Tim is up.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Good to see you this evening. This first item was actually, the funds were actually brought to you previous meeting, I think the one back or maybe the one prior to that. This is American Rescue Plan dollars. We bid out the roof project for the Board of Health or Public Health Building. We had 3 contractors respond to our bid request. Curtis Construction with a bid of $164,000 was the low bid. We've asked for a contingency to be included of 20% since we know there may be some unforeseen issues underneath the existing roof that may need to be repaired as we continue on that project. So tonight we're asking for authority for the manager to execute the contract for the Public Health Department roof with Curtis Construction for a total amount of $196,800. Be happy to take any questions.
Yes.
I move approval.
I second it.
It's been moved and second that we approve the contract award for the Pitt County Health Department for the amount stated. Are you ready for the question, Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Hogan.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McGowan,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Will you up again?
I am. So this is another project that is going to be funded with the rescue plan dollars, which was presented to you as well. It is the third phase of the replacement of the air handling units at the detention center. We've completed the first and second phases. This will be the third and final phase. It was bid out Kearney and Associates with a bid of $533,668. Is the recommended contract for the unit installation. And Brady Services, we have special controls out there at the detention center. So the controls were bid out. The low bid was $52,982. So tonight, I've got Craig Pierce here with me, who is facilities manager for the detention center. If you have any questions related to the project, but we're asking for approval of the, I guess, the budget amendments and the contracts for this project.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move approval.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second that we approve the amended contract and the budget amount. Are you ready for the question?
Yeah, just for the record, I did catch your second. Chairwoman Floyd Hogan.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We have the budget amendment, Community Unity Resource Center,
Where is this
Mr.
located?
Manager.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Last year, the Board of County Commissioners, in conjunction with the City of Greenville and United Way, approved $30,000 in monies to assist the Community Unity Resources Center with the rental expenses on a warehouse at 1067 Brompton Lane. We had asked them at that time to come up with a fundraising plan to raise these monies for year two. They did embark upon that, but was not successful. They are now asking for our three entities to consider paying for their warehouse space costs in year two. Myself, the city manager, Ann Wall, and United Way Director Dwayne Cooper have met several times on this, requested various information from the Community Unity Resources Center. And at this point in time, what we are recommending would be the base rent, when you drill down to it, is about $26,400 a year. That excludes electricity, internet, gas, and some incidental costs. We are proposing that the city and the county split the 13.2. We would pay ours out of our ARP funding, and for the following year, either to tell them that this is the last year you're going to pay it, or that even the following year you further step it down.
Okay.
Scott, do they have a plan on how they're going to start paying their rent and their bills after this year?
Honestly, I would say not at this time.
If we give them this, can we make it clear that?
If you make it part of the
Next
motion,
year,
then
yes,
we'll put that as part of
Okay.
the letter, transmittal letter. And I'll let the city know that you've done.
I will make a motion that we go in on half with the city of Greenville and that we donate them $13,200 from the American Rescue Funding, with the notification that's beginning next year that they are going to be responsible for their own rent and that their own bills, and they need to go ahead and get a plan in place.
I second.
It's been moved in second that we give this amount of money this year with the suggestion that they find other means next year to pay for their rent. Are you ready for the question? Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Hogan.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. And I move to the fourth item, which talks about travel and training policy amendment for the county commissioners. Mr. Manager.
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, Commissioners, from your September 13th meeting, this is follow-up. We've taken your travel and training policy, this specifically for the Board of County Commissioners, and have revised the language to basically strike the rotation schedule in there. That didn't allow all 9 county commissioners to attend the national conferences. The only thing I would say in interpretation of this, if any individual commissioner had a request for any special training, i.e. the school government or something that's not related to the NCACC or NACO, that would still need to come before this board for consideration. But otherwise, all national travel for the, say, the NACO Legislative Conference or the NACO Summer Conference, all 9 commissioners will be able to attend. And we'll monitor that as it was discussed. Budget related wise as part of the budget and as we get through the year.
Madam Chair, motion to approve the amendment.
I second it.
Okay,
And I'd like to make a
second.
comment that I don't, so the public knows that this is really not something that all of us usually go to at one time. This just says that we are now able to if we want to. It's just not something we've done in the past.
It's been moved and second that we amend the travel and training policy for county commissioners. Are you ready for the question? Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
No.
Commissioner McLaughlin.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
No.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-2.
Thank you. The reappointment to the Home and Community Care Block Grant Committee.
You skip number 5.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jail medical
I
service.
checked it off, but I haven't done it yet. The jail medical service, Sheriff Dance and Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I think the sheriff is unless there's a need for her to come forward and speak and answer any questions, she's asked me to handle this. So on the jail medical services, we've had an internal committee working on this for the past several months. And this is at your direction on May 17th. The committee consisted of myself as manager, our chief financial officer, Brian Barnett, attorney Janice Gallagher, public health director, Dr. Silvernail, the sheriff herself, the sheriff's attorney, Attorney Norman, and then her chief of detention, Lynn Capehart. So we've met and we had 3 tasks in front of us. One was to examine something called the consortium model. That was basically a service delivery model similar to what we had prior to WellPath taking over July 1, is to see whether that could be feasible to moving forward July 1 of 2022, whether that could be re-implemented in some form or fashion. You have a recommendation in this packet basically explaining how we looked into that, how we felt like that is not a feasible option at this time, that the partners that would be needed to put that into place, that were just from the inquiries that were made, that we do not feel like we can realistically do that. So from that, we then moved on to the current jail medical plan that is the responsibility of the Board of County Commissioners to adopt. And it basically spells out how the medical services within the detention center will be rendered. And that has to be in conjunction with the existing WellPath contract. So since WellPath was a brand new entity, that plan had to be basically rewritten in its entirety. Some of the things that were added, major elements to it, are mental health and substance abuse and communicable disease elements to it. Also, we did not have prior any language in there, as I recall, on electronic health records. So the jail medical plan now is before you for your consideration for adoption. There are about 200 different pages of documents here between these 3 things. The third item is the actual RFP. RFP is your request for proposals. Our committee met on this as well and looked at what would be needed for a new request for proposals to be issued this fall for a vendor for July 1 of 2022. I believe the way that this RFP is worded, it's for a 3-year term, if that's what the board would so deem as wanting. So you have that document plus all of its appendices in here as well as there's a schedule of dates of how that would be rolled out, when the proposals would be advertised and received, reviewed, a recommendation coming before you, how it would blend with budget, and then how the contract would be approved, and then the date of implementation. So basically, we are looking for you to accept and approve the jail medical services plan, and also to give us the go-ahead on the RFP as drafted.
And that's for this year.
The jail medical plan would be effective for this year's jail medical services being rendered. The RFP would be for the whole process, moving us toward July 1 of 22-23
Right.
and forward.
Yes.
Madam Chair? Yes. I move that we accept the manager's recommendation.
I second it.
It's been moved and second that we approve the jail medical service plan as presented by the manager. Are you ready for the question?
And include the plan for the RFP.
Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Believe it or not, I read every word of it and I agree with it. Yes, I read everything.
Commissioner McLaughlin.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Next item.
Thank you.
I do want to make a note on the RFP, just one element, one thing I forgot to mention was that this RFP is far more detailed than RFPs that we've issued in the past
Mhm.
in terms of scoping out the service. And it does include all the aspects of the jail medical plan. So a couple things different from what we've done in the past. So it's much more comprehensive.
Okay, that's
Got
good.
more pages in it, anything I see.
That's good. Okay. Reappointment to the Home and Community Care Block Grant. Mr. Manager?
Yes, ma'am. And with that, we have a recommendation to reappoint Miss Judy Jackson to this committee.
I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Ms. Jackson.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we reappoint Ms. Jackson to this Community Care Block Grant Committee. Are you ready for the question, Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Foy Huggins.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes,
Commissioner McLaughlin.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Reappointment to the EMS Oversight Committee.
Is there a recommendation to reappoint Joe Morgan?
Madam
Move
Chair, I'd
approval.
like to recommend that we reappoint Joe Morgan, and that's a female Joe, I think,
Correct.
at large seat to the EMS Oversight Committee.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we reappoint Joe Morgan to the EMS Oversight Committee. Are you ready for the question, Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Foy Huggins.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
yes,
Commissioner McLaughlin.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Reappointment to the Jury Commission. Mr. Manager?
Is there a recommendation from our clerk report, Sarah Beth Rhodes, to reappoint Jimmy Hardy to the jury commission? And this will be an exception, it looks like. Yes, because he served the maximum number of terms.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept Sarah Beth Rhodes' recommendation of reappointing Jimmy Hardy.
Second.
I second it.
Okay. It's been moved and second that we accept Sarah Beth, our clerk of court recommendation to the jury commission. Are you ready for the question, Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Foy Huggins.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
yes,
Commissioner McLaughlin.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. We're at the end of our agenda. We'll have commissioners' comments or committee reports. We'll start with Commissioner Colson.
I would like to ask all the citizens that have any interest in the proposed change to the law enforcement ordinance number 4. removing the concealed carry permit holders from the county buildings to please come to the meeting next time. Fill it up, call in, do whatever you got to do. We need to hear your voices. That's all.
Commissioner Albright.
No comments.
I'm noticing an unusual amount of trash in places that I've never seen before. If you love your county and you love where you live, stop dumping the trash in the wrong place. Put it where it's supposed to be. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I would like to thank everyone involved with the Pitt County Fair, especially the young people that exhibited in the agricultural exhibits. It was very exciting to see our youth out there showing and really doing a fantastic job of representing our county. So thank you to the entire and the Sheriff Department for security out there and everyone involved. It was just a really top-notch affair. Thank you.
Well, I would just like to congratulate all of the students and players and all who came out today with the basketball team, the 4-H'ers, and all of the coaches. And again, congratulations to our own Mac Taylor. That, and also to say to all citizens, if you have not gotten your vaccine, you have not been vaccinated, then please, for the love of your family, love of your neighbor, love of your friends.
We
Thank you.
need that, Madam Chairman, for the schools. We need that for the schools.
Thank you. Commissioner White?
Yes, I would also like to encourage anybody that has any interest in the law enforcement ordinance number 4 at our next public hearing to please be here to give your comments in person. If you can't be here, please reach out to county staff to share your comments so that they may be read and heard. That's it.
Commissioner?
No, I have nothing. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner? Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner McGawhorn?
No comment.
Okay, thank you. At this time, that is,
Motion to go in closed session. Is that in order?
yes.
Second.
Attorney, will you take us into closed session, please?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, it's been suggested that this board go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3 under attorney-client privilege to consult with an attorney employed by the public body in order to preserve that attorney-client privilege. Also under 143-318.11A6 to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment, or conditions of initial employment of an individual public officer or employee or prospective public officer or employee, and under 143-318.11 and A1 to prevent the disclosure of confidential information.
Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Nolly,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.